All right, man. Let's get into the reaction, man. I ain't about to waste y'all time, bro. Bro, this is how donuts is made, bro. I don't know if y'all care about that, but you know, I'd be curious. Oh, this is how to make homemade donuts. My fault. Oh, I said the shit completely wrong. I've always been curious to that, bro. If y'all don't know, donuts is my favorite dessert. I don't like cake. But donuts definitely be slapping, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Donuts is better than cookies, cake, cupcakes, bunt cakes. Donuts just better than everything. Ice cream. Donuts is definitely better than ice cream. But alright, y'all, let's get into it. But go check out bro page.
Every way imaginable, and there's one method that gives you those perfect bakery quality donuts every single time. We'll begin our donuts by activating our yeast, which starts with some warm milk into the bowl of a stand mixer, along with some sugar, that's going to be the food for our yeast, as well as 1 packet of active dry yeast. Give this a quick mix to make sure everything is fully combined. Let it sit for 15 minutes to let the yeast wake up. Once your yeast looks nice and bubbly and alive, you're ready to keep moving. But if it doesn't, do that process over again, because if you don't have live yeast, your donuts aren't going to work out. Into our bowl now, we're going to add some butter that I've melted and then cooled back down to room temperature, along.
Call me a fat ass, call me whatever you want. I know all y'all motherfuckers want to know how to make donuts at the crib. Stop playing with me.
With a few eggs, some vanilla extract, and a sprinkle of salt. Now attach your dough hook, turn your mixer on medium, and mix for about 1 minute, or until everything is mostly mixed. And feel free to scrape down the sides of your bowl if you need. Next, while mixing again on medium, add in 1/3 of your flour and make sure that's fully combined, scraping down the sides of your bowl once again as needed. Then repeat the same process with half the remaining flour, scraping down the sides of your mixing bowl again, and then finally add in the rest of your flour. At this point, we'll let the mixer continue on medium until it forms a sticky and tacky dough. That looks pretty sticky tacky to me. I don't know why I just did that. Just made a completely unnecessary mess. Just when I'm talking about how sticky it is. Well, anyways, when it looks like that, we're now gonna turn our mixer up even higher and let this continue for 7 to 10 minutes. You'll know that your donut dough is the right consistency if you listen closely and hear sort of a beat, a song that it's making in the background. But it's only gonna play that.
That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. Crazy as hell, dog.
Away from the sides of the mixture and becomes a uniform dough like this. See that? All by itself, it's now completely separate from the bowl. At this point, we're done with our mixer, so we'll lightly flour our work surface and begin kneading our dough. Like I said, the mixer already did most of the work, so all you need to do here is knead until the dough is no longer sticky on your hands or work surface. Just a minute or two.
Bro, I'm gonna make me some donuts, bro. I gotta figure out how much that little dough maker costs. They probably got one for like $40.
Once you're happy with your dough, do your best to shape it into a nice ball like this one here.
Oh,
Then
we
grab
got a dough
bowl,
maker?
butter it all up so nothing sticks.
Oh
You
yeah,
use
it's
your hand,
bad.
use
I
paper
can
towel, do this
make
however you want. And then
homemade
gently
donuts.
lay down that dough ball, cover it with plastic wrap, and add a little smiley face if you want. And then let this rest at room temperature in a nice warm place
Get
for
the yeast
1
pack from the
hour.
dollar store.
Fast forward to our risen dough, and this is what it should look like. What this means is that our dough has been very, very active. And now we get to do perhaps the most exciting part of making donuts. Besides eating them,
Smack
punch
it.
down our dough.
Yeah,
Watch
and it
that thing
collapsed.
deflate. I know it sounds like you want to
Yeah.
keep all the air in there, but we need it deflated just enough to be able to roll it out and then cut it into donut portions. Once again, lightly flour your work surface. I always need to blow some off since I like to do extra because it looks cool. And then lightly flour your hands so that you can press your dough out by hand into an 11 by 14 inch rectangle, which should end up being about a ½ an inch thick in height. As you press and stretch, do your best to keep things as even as possible, or else you'll probably end up with some sideways donuts. You also want to make sure not to fold the dough over itself. Once you've gotten your dough as even and flat as you possibly can,
got a
grab some
donut
flour
cutter.
along with a ring mold or a donut cutter like this one here. Then dip the mold into the flour to make sure it's been lightly coated and press. Spinning if you like to make sure everything's fully detached. And then right away, move that donut to a pre-cut sheet of parchment. If you want to cook your donut holes, or munchkins as we call them here in Boston, feel free to set those off to the side as well. And then just continue cutting out all your donuts following that exact same process, doing your very best to cut out as many as you possibly can from the dough that you pressed out. It's best if you handle the donuts as minimally as possible.
Like what, bro? I'm
That'll
trying to
ensure
tell you,
get
bro.
nice,
Donuts.
clean, and even shapes like this for baking. As a final step, we'll cover our donuts
Once you
lightly
hit them
with some
bitches in the
plastic
grease.
wrap and let them proof for an hour.
Once you throw them bitches in the grease, nigga, and then I'm telling you, bro, them bitches hit the grease and they turn brown. And you gotta flip them over. On the other side, nigga, flip that donut up. Them bitches be looking so crazy. I'm trying to tell you, bro. Them donuts be fucking slapping, bro. Ain't nothing like a fire ass donut, bro.
And after that, we'll be ready to bake. Oh, and look at that. I already made some donuts that are risen, so you don't have to wait. But actually, I am gonna make you wait for 2 seconds while I clean up my workstation. The way this happens is
so he had to wait till they rose
pick
up.
up our donuts
Set
on
them,
this
let them
parchment.
sit for
As
a
you can
minute.
see, they're all nice and puffed up. Then we're gonna drop them into our frying oil. Be patient here, just give them a second to release. And when I can, I'm just gonna lift away that parchment and let them fry. Set a 1-minute timer for each side, and then flip carefully and confidently. Oh yeah.
Ah, I'm trying to tell you what I say, bro. Them just look
This is the great
crazy.
thing about cooking donuts.
Whew.
You can let them do most of the work. After the same amount of time on the second side, go ahead and transfer them to a wire rack line baking sheet
I'm gonna make
with a
some
paper
Krispy
towel
Kreme
underneath to
bitches
catch
on-
all that
on-
excess
on-
oil.
on
And
Instagram
wow,
Live.
look at those donuts.
Look at that
Perfect
bitch.
golden brown on either
Oh my
side
God.
with that iconic white line going right through the center. Exactly what we're going for. I'm extremely happy with these ones here, so let's move on now to fry our second batch. Here we go. 2 important things about this parchment method here. First, be really careful that your fingers don't go into the hot oil. That's the most important thing. And second, it's important to explain that we do this to keep that iconic circular donut shape. As tempting as it may be to push the donuts down into the oil, don't do it. If you do that, you're not going to get the iconic white stripe.
Y'all
These
hear 'em?
donuts are
Don't
already
fuck
done.
up,
While
bro.
I fry this last batch, I'll tell you a fun
Do
fact
it right.
about donuts. If you're
No
lucky
cap.
and I have enough time, maybe I'll tell you 2 fun facts about donuts. The first one is that the biggest donut ever made was bigger than a car and weighed
And
over
after y'all whip up
3,000
the donuts,
the
send me a
second one,
picture
which
in
I
the
almost
Discord.
forgot
You feel
about,
me?
is that
If
I
you make
actually
them
hold
before
the
I
Guinness
do.
World Record for the world's largest donut
What?
cake. Let me flip these and then we'll do one more fun fact. And third, donuts have holes in the center like this because bakers always got mad that they were still raw after cooking. So ever since then, they've had holes in the middle. I made enough donuts here to make a few different flavors. So the last step now is to get them frosted. I'm gonna whip together 3 different frostings because I have a vision of basically making this, but with better looking donuts and better looking frosting. For our chocolate frosting, we'll add some cocoa powder to the confectioner sugar, along with a little bit of milk. Oh my gosh, have you seen the trick with the cocoa powder and milk? I'll show you that in just a second. Let me finish this first. And a little pinch of salt. Now, all we do is whisk it up until we get that classic frosting consistency. You know, when you mix this, it's gonna look at first like it's not gonna come together. It's gonna look really, really dry. But the thing I've learned about frosting on donuts is that it always runs more than you think it will. Okay, let me show you the thing. Check this out. This has absolutely nothing to do with donuts. Milk into a bowl. Look, this is real milk. Nothing fancy happening here. Get a nice big spoonful of cocoa powder and watch carefully now. You dip
gonna
that
put it in
spoonful
there.
of cocoa powder
He gonna
into
tap
the
it.
bowl
That
of
shit gonna
milk,
like-
and then when you pull it up, it's got a whole layer there, but watch. Boom. Magic. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
let's make
weird.
the
It's
frosting.
like
Stop
all
messing
the
around, everybody.
cocoa
Our
make
second
like a
glaze is going to be
shell.
strawberry glaze.
Some
It
shit
also
like
starts
that.
out with confectioner sugar, but then we add strawberry jam, then some milk and beet juice for color. Same thing
Strawberry
again now,
jam.
just mix it all up. Ooh, and look at that beet juice already turning this a beautiful red color. We're going for pink though. By the end, it should be a nice pink. And you may notice that this time I'm stirring with a fork instead of a whisk. After stirring that chocolate one with the whisk, I realized it's much easier with a fork to push things in and really get all the clumps out of the confectioner sugar. I find this here to be the perfect pink color, but if you want to add a little more beet juice, you certainly can. Our strawberry glaze is done, so let's move on.
So that's
now
all
to our
icing
last
is
one,
fucking
which
powdered
is
sugar?
vanilla.
I never
First,
knew
we
that.
need a bit of lemon juice, then a little vanilla extract, and just like the others, a little bit of milk. I'm not going to make you watch me
Powdered
stir this
sugar
one
and
up.
milk.
We're going to dip in the order that we made our frostings. First, with chocolate. Here we go. First donut. This is a big moment. Drop it in,
Kaplow,
then
man.
lift up. And once most of the drips are done, flip it back right side up. Add those sprinkles right away, and there's your first official donut. It's a great looking donut. Moving on.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. I might have, bro. Do y'all see? Damn, bro. Do y'all see that motherfucking donut,
right now
bro?
in the
That bitch
comments.
look
Which of
crazy.
the 3 frostings is gonna make our best?
I'm gonna have to
looking
go get
donut?
them
This one
ingredients
looks
right
good.
now.
Just gotta let that frosting settle for a minute, and then on we go with our rainbow sprinkles. That one's gonna be hard to beat. That's a classic Homer Simpson donut.
How long
right
the
there.
yeast
Last
gotta
one
sit?
now,
How long?
our
How long
vanilla,
do the
which
yeast
is also
gotta
gonna
sit?
get the rainbow sprinkles. This
Chat,
one
somebody tell me.
definitely
How long the
needs a
donuts
mix.
gotta? No,
Here
nigga said it.
we go.
Go back and
I don't
watch it
know.
again.
Is this one gonna look better than the pink? Picking which donut to take the first bite of is not an easy decision, but I think I'm gonna go with the pink one. How could I not? Look at that donut. Look how perfect it is. Only one thing left to do.
Ha.
Wow. If you've ever thought about making donuts at home, do it. I promise you won't regret it.